Hey, hi, hello. Welcome or welcome back. This is Blacklight Astrology, and I am Laura Black, your astrologer. Today we're talking about the full moon in Aquarius, which is happening at 16 degrees and 59 minutes of the sign, opposite the sun in Leo. This is quite a full moon, you guys. This is one of those big standout lunations of the year. It is the last lunation before we get into eclipse season, and it's one that's really giving us an opportunity that feels sort of like we're approaching the edge of a cliff. For this lunation, I've really been thinking about, have you all ever seen those YouTube shorts where there's like some person who's going base jumping for the first time in their lives and they're doing it tandem, so there's a pro connected behind them and they've got their camera and they're like just scoping it out and inching their way toward the edge of the cliff and kind of trying to collect themselves and getting ready. You know what I'm talking about? This feels like that, except we're not about to jump. We're just scoping it out. We're looking, we're seeing if we have the guts to do this thing, but we are going to back it up and take a few more prep breaths before we actually take the leap. That will come closer to the spring of 2026. But this is quite the testing ground. This is a configuration of there's a grand trine, a grand air trine in this chart, topped by a talent triangle or triangle of potential. You may have heard it called a grand minor trine, this little triangle on top. This combined makes a kite configuration. And what do kites do? They fly. Now, kites are made of these beautiful trine and sextile aspects, which could fool somebody into believing that it's just purely good energy, that it's just flowing something beneficial. But, if you think of these trines as just hoses, they're just flowing energy. It doesn't say good energy or bad energy, it's just flowing energy. So there's a ton of potential for ideas and awareness to connect in here. I've been feeling this over the last couple of days of noticing out in public people just kind of vibing and getting along. There's been a lot of kindness and camaraderie and communication in spaces that I wouldn't normally experience that. To the degree that it feels like almost like I'm at like a special event where we're all kind of in this niche thing together. Like I think of festivals that I've been to or like a performance or we're all kind of there. We might be total strangers, but we're there to have a good time. So we're all kind of connecting. I've noticed that a lot at the grocery store, the pharmacy the other day. There's just been this like willingness to connect and keep things light and wish each other well and laugh at the whatever's happening. I've seen that a lot, and that felt very grand air trine to me. It's like, okay, yeah, we can. I don't know you, but let's chat about this. And haha, being human, isn't it great? We're all standing in line for however long. Solidarity about being human and isn't life hard? That kind of thing. It's just brought this kind of lightness, this social ease of connection, and that is very grand air trine energy to me. Of course, that can happen just naturally under a full moon in Aquarius. I think of any friends that I have with this full moon configuration, either sun in Leo, moon in Aquarius, or the opposite, and they're just fun. They're just so fun to be around. They lighten things up. They're permission slip givers, left, right, and center. There is a freedom and just a levity to experience when you're around those people. So this full moon kind of has that, except we've got this intensity, this undertow of kind of awareness of the darkness. Mercury is finaling its journey through retrograde, or finalizing rather. It's at the degree where he will station as of Monday, the 11th. And then he'll be going direct again. But for now, under this lunation, he is opposite the planet Pluto. Pluto, which is a deep analyst, Pluto, a surgeon's scalpel. Pluto is out here trying to dig to the core to reveal something. And we're all probably pretty familiar with what this something is because in this place where Mercury is retrograding, we have recently had quite a bit of action. We had a Venus retrograde take place through more thoroughly through all the degrees of Leo back in the summer. Well, in June, July, August and September especially of 2023. And then just this past December, January, February, we had Mars retrograde, much in this same space. And now Mercury is here doing his little retrograde dance. So we had Venusian reflection time. What do I value in this Leo arena of my life? Having to do with children or the inner child, having to do with creativity or play, having to do with exposure and letting myself be seen, being courageous, expressing, standing up, shining, protecting what it is that I'm passionate about, expressing what it is that I'm passionate about. Leo. And then we had, and that all played into relationships too with Venus there. And then we had the Mars retrograde. Oof, that was interesting. A lot about what we desire, what drives us in this area. A lot about finding a sense of security and protection. And with Mercury retrograding here, we're reflecting on that period of time these last, 6 months ago or so, where we were trying to figure out what it is that we wanted to do. What action did we want to take in those areas? What risks were we willing to take? And was there underlying anger or irritation, or where was the lack of motivation? How do we correct that issue? Well, now Mercury is retrograding there, saying, okay, go back and reflect on all of that, everything we learned, and tie up our loose ends and pick up the projects, finish things up. But opposite Pluto, it's very hyper aware of something dark underlying this Aquarius realm in our lives. Community, social circles, being exposed online, the internet, our access to it, what we've learned from it. This power to the people signature of Pluto and Aquarius, the journey we're all on for the next basically 20 years, is we're under this full moon. This is really being highlighted. Reflect on what we've learned since the first days of Pluto entering Aquarius over these last couple of years. It's time to kind of integrate that and decide how we're going to move forward and who we're going to be from here on out. And this is where the kite comes into play, the who we are going to be. I want to parse this down for a second to just the Saturn and Mars synodic cycles. Let me take away all this extra stuff in the sky for a moment. We're going to look back at some dates having to do with this Saturn-Mars opposition that we're under in this full moon. So Saturn, Father Time. My favorite nickname for him is the struggle bus, but he is the discipline daddy, and he's the one that we bow to if we're trying to get our shit together and get things done in life. This is very much about maturity and purpose and laying a foundation that's going to last for the next 30 years until he comes back around again. So wherever he is in the sky at any given moment, and in our charts, we've got to be pushing, working, building, and we are likely going to be feeling a sense of delay or frustration, a sense of things being particularly burdened in that realm, extra heavy, so much responsibility. He's just dipped on into the sign of Aries, which is not super fun for any of us. That's his fall. He really doesn't do well in the sign of Aries. We can look to Will Smith and what he's going through these days to understand that. Happy approach to your second Saturn return, Will. And I'm going to make a video about that eventually. It's a little questionable, unethical to read the charts of people you haven't met publicly, but he's in the public eye. What are you going to do? It's a great way to learn about the astrology. Um, Saturn opposite Mars. Mars is the gas pedal. Mars is all about what we want to do and how we're going to do it. Mars executes. Mars severs ties or initiates them, especially in the sign of Libra, about contracts and relationships. Mars is about how we are asserting ourselves in any given situation. It's the fight in us. So when Mars, the gas pedal, and Saturn, the brakes, oppose each other, we get this squaring off, we get this feeling of frustration and an absolute demand to take action, but also this pull, this it can feel like lethargy. It can feel like a lack of confidence is a big one here. We're all really having to face insecurities. That's a huge one here. Now, when we take this back to the dance that happens between Mars and Saturn, let's go back to the last time that they came together. So I've pulled up the current chart above our current lunar chart, and it's taken us back to April. I think it was April 10th that it was perfected. April of 2024, Mars and Saturn were together in the middle degrees of Pisces. That was the beginning of this next synodic cycle of Saturn Mars. which is about the kinds of actions that we take that are going to have sustaining effects, the kinds of boundaries we're setting, the kinds of um, behaviors that are going to require an increase in maturity and an increase in taking responsibility for our actions. The consequences of the Mars Saturn synodic cycle are great. You know, Saturn will deliver the reality, the result of the actions that we take where he is concerned. So back in April of 2024, Mars and Saturn came together. Let me take away this full moon chart for a moment so we can just look at Mars and Saturn synodic cycle. So here they are, Mars, Saturn in April. But let's move it forward now to when they came to their first hard aspect after that conjunction, which was the square angle. This happened in August of 2024. And if you know astrology, if you listen to this content very frequently, you might remember that the planet Jupiter was with Mars back in August of 2024. So not only was this Mars square Saturn, I believe it was August 15th that it perfected, but Jupiter, the planet Jupiter, was there expanding that Martian energy. Here he is, I've got him popped up here. Jupiter and Mars square Saturn. That was that was a neurotic energy for sure. It was idea factory on full blast, but also feeling limited by fears and delusions, and it was it was a lot. It was a lot of escapism in a lot of my clients at that time. Mars square Saturn, being driven by the expansive mind that was ruminating on fears and delusions. It may have been driven by delusion or driven to be creative and then find out that there's, things are not quite as we thought they were when we were taking these actions before. A lot of struggle with boundaries, a lot of struggle with mental clarity, a lot of depression in a lot of the people that I was seeing at that time. So that was the first square angle after this synodic cycle that began in April of 2024. And then in August, we had kind of this checkpoint where there was some sort of contentious inflammation. There was some sort of realization around limitation in the actions we'd taken and what needed to be done to kind of, complete the puzzle and find a workaround for any obstacles we were encountering. Then we take it forward, and we had this Mars retrograde all through December, January, February, March. So it was quite some time before they came back into contact or into their next hard aspect, which is today. And here we are under the Mars Saturn opposition. Let me get Jupiter out of there again. So now, under this full moon, Mars and Saturn are opposing each other, and this opposition is the halfway point in their dance, so to speak. It's not literally by time the halfway point because we did have a Mars retrograde, so they'll actually be coming to their next hard aspect in December. On December 8th, these two planets will come into another square. There it is, December 8th. Saturn will have dipped back into Pisces, refreshing the work that we've established in that Pisces area of our lives since March of 2023. And one more little reminder about the importance of boundaries and building structure that has to do with our spirituality or creativity and dealing with the unknown, as is a pervasive theme with the North Node in Pisces. But Mars in Sagittarius will be squaring Saturn in Pisces. I'm marking my calendar for that because Mars will be exactly on my South Node at that time. And it's like, okay, Laura, put a lid on it, girl. Now, today we are just under this opposition that is a facing off, giving us some perspective. And it's sort of a checkpoint saying, okay, how have we been doing with this? But the flavor has changed. The last time they were aspecting one another, they were in mutable signs, Pisces and Gemini. And this time they're in the cardinal signs of Aries and Libra. And, Mars rules Aries. So there's so much here about the boundaries and the coordination of me and we, self and other, our one-on-one significant relationships. There's a lot of spicy energy here. Them are fighting words is buried in this signature. There's a lot of initiating contracts or ending contracts. A lot of let's do this, committing to relationship, and a lot of breakups for sure under this signature. Now we're back to this full expressed chart for the full moon in Aquarius. What's kind of nice about this lunation, beyond the fact that there's this kite, there's this amazing potential to take this leap of faith and really truly fly. It's not quite time to take the full leap, but we are seeing it. We are preparing. We're getting everything in order. We've got the extra chute packed. But the moon rules the sign of Cancer, right? And over here we have the Venus-Jupiter conjunction building. It hasn't quite perfected at the time of this full moon, but they're coming close to snuggle together. This happens, sometimes more than once a year, but usually once a year, Venus will catch up to Jupiter. And this time it's in Jupiter's favorite sign, his exaltation, Cancer, which is super sweet in a lot of ways. But what's really cool is this is one of two times in a year that Venus and Jupiter are going to kiss in the sign of Cancer. It's happening now, and then it's also going to happen in June, late June of 2026, in the latest degrees of Cancer. So lucky you, Cancers. Hopefully, the Cancer area of your chart is blessed and doing something sweet. And in that case, Venus, Jupiter expanding that area and blessing it up and dressing it up is probably going to feel pretty good. So find the Cancer area of your chart. Notice where 13-ish, 14 degrees of Cancer falls, and if you have any planets near there. That is the area that's getting this little kiss from the universe, some kind of warmth, an expansive beauty. There's a comfortability here. There's a loveliness. This is a little love nest. I love that. And that's being ruled by this lunation. Now, for some, this is meaning, okay, this situation that I'm in now with my partner, my live-in companion, or this house that I'm remodeling or buying or something. The moon rules that signature. So I've invested a lot of money in it, perhaps, a lot of time, energy, love. And now, under this full moon, it is being revealed. Something's being revealed that I didn't know was there. That's maybe not the aesthetic I wanted or the function or it's not quite like I feel like I got cheated or it has a mold problem. I'm just realizing, it's that kind of there's something that comes out in the contract or comes out in the actual situation itself. And it's like, okay, okay, we can work with this. We can problem solve around this. It's not the end of the world. It's just, it's like, all right, I like the situation. And also, I see what's going on here. I see, says Pluto, opposite Mercury, retrograde in Leo. I see where, this insecurity has been causing a problem, or this one detail was not shared until too late. And so we're not thrilled. Everybody will probably not be thrilled with this signature, but it does feel workable. Mostly because Pallas Athena is conjunct the moon, and Pallas Athena is famous for her wicked intelligence and ability to problem solve in and of herself, her creativity, her wordsmithing, and she's in the sign of Aquarius. So there is this really lovely gift for the aptitude to see things clearly, to shift above, to find a sense of acceptance and get straight to problem solving the issue with love, with compassion. I like this. I really like the feeling of this full moon. It's a little painful if the ego has been massively distorted and things have been really unfair. The way we've been treating ourselves and others in close contact. This is sort of a rectification, or this is big repair or rupture energy in our most important contracts. But if we're willing to repair, this is big repair energy. It's like brand new levels of awareness, brand new ways of shifting perspective and wanting to approach communication and relationship to do the repair. But boundaries, 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 careful, clear listening, and a willingness to remain calm and anchored when approaching the conflict. Um, yeah, this is the observer's dream in this signature, this chart. So that is everything I have for you tonight in this full moon assessment. I hope you're enjoying the feeling of it. It's quite an interesting one. I'll be back with more information soon. We're going to talk about the conjunction of Jupiter and Venus and that synodic cycle, which is peaking just a few days after this lunation. We're talking Monday, Tuesday, like the 12th, 13th, 14th of August. And we'll talk about I'll give you some dates to look forward to on that journey of the kind of the love being expanded, Venus conjunct Jupiter. It's such a beautiful gift. So if you're struggling this weekend as we approach the end of Mercury retrograde, fear not. Hang on. Next week, there's a really big, sweet, lighter energy coming in, a nurturing energy that's going to kind of help lift and loosen things up, at least in one area of life. All right, thanks so much for watching, everybody. If you would like to book a session with me, I am also offering mini readings now, just 30 minutes for $50 if you're not ready for the 2 hour conversation or investment. But check out my website, black-light-astrology.com. Thanks so much. Comment, like, share, and I'll see you again in the next one. Bye.